Hello, welcome to the live stream. Today we are talking figure skating because frankly, I have not had time for anything else between reporting on figure skating and watching figure skating at the Olympics, and all of the early or late nights that I've had to do because I am trying to schedule reporting on the Olympics in Milan with a 9-hour time difference from Milan. Anyway, I was just gonna say it. It's been very chaotic. However, I did wear my I didn't wear a skating thing today, but I wore my pasta earrings, which I feel like is very Italy appropriate. But we've now wrapped up the team event in figure skating. That was this weekend. Honestly, this is the third Olympics we've had the team event in figure skating, and I have to tell you, I think I am now officially a team event believer. I think one of the reasons that I was always skeptical about adding this team event is that I think they added it so that there is an opportunity for casual viewers at the Olympics to have something that they know. They don't have to know the skaters to know who they're cheering for, right? Yes, I think skating is very watchable if you don't understand the scoring, but it can be pretty hard to parse out some of these things of what is the difference between a first place and a 10th place finish at the Olympics if you don't really know what you're looking for. And I think one of the reasons they did the team event, in addition to the fact that they launched it at Sochi in 2014, and it was a attempt to get more gold medals for Russia, a successful attempt, I should say. One of the other reasons that they did it was because the thought that it would be appealing to casual four-year fans of figure skating that only tune in during the Olympics. But 3 Olympics in, I think it's a great opportunity for skaters that are unlikely to make the podium in the individual events get some recognition. It's a really good, we had a home team medal from Team Italy, which was, that federation has been working very much to develop their skaters. But the thing about the team event, it is even really strong federations like Japan, which came in second, even really strong federations like that have super deep talent in Japan has incredible talent in pairs. It has a really deep field in women and men's skating. But Japan just doesn't have good ice dance depth right now. And because of that, you end up with skaters, Japan is in second place, and they really, because they had such weak ice dancing, they had to kind of be pulled up. And then another example was Korea, which just didn't have all 4 disciplines. You're allowed to compete in 3 of the 4 disciplines, but you essentially forfeit the points in that discipline. And only the top 5 out of the 10 countries that are in the team event will go to the second phase of the competition. And so anyway, I think it's a really great opportunity for federations to think about increasing opportunities across discipline, investing in all of the disciplines of skating, all of the Olympic disciplines of skating. And it is, pretty good investment overall from Italy to the point where they got a home bronze. And we always kind of anticipated there would be a little bit of home cooking in the scores for some of the Italian skaters. But no, I wouldn't even say that there was home cooking. I would say fair and square, Italy put on, Matteo Rizzo, the moment of the night for me was probably the last 10 seconds of his program when he realized he had done it all, that he had skated clean in his home country, and he might have just secured a bronze for his country. That moment, he went up to the judges, straight up to the boards, and smiled at the judges, and the judge smiled back. And He ran on his skates, like ran to his teammates off the ice after he was done. And that was probably the moment of the team event for me. Fuzzbubble says, I heard there's drama between the ice dancers and, okay, hold on. Also, I'm not seeing this yet. I'm not seeing the chat yet, but I can see it. I hear there's drama between the speed skaters and the figure skaters. They're sharing the same rink and the ice isn't being properly prepared for the speed skaters. I haven't heard any of this drama, but it's probably, if it's affecting the speed skaters, it's probably not affecting the figure skaters, which is maybe why I haven't heard it. I feel like I'm pretty tuned into the drama right now. One of the big dramas was that the podium, so in ice skating competitions, you go out for the podium on, and this is true for speed skating as well as figure skating. You will go out onto the podium at the end with your skates on. So you come off the ice after your program, you wait in the kiss and cry, and then when the competition is done, whoever wins will go out and stand on the podium for pictures and the anthem and to get their medals and to get their stuffed animals. In China's Olympics, because it was a COVID Olympics, they did the stuffed animal ceremony separate from the medal ceremony, but this Olympics is doing them together. Anyway, the whole podium happens right after, unless you are the team event in the 2022 Olympics, where it happens 2 years later at an entirely different Olympics due to Camila Villeva and the positive doping test that came in. But the skaters will skate out, stand on the podium in their skates, and then they'll do like a victory lap around. And usually like they'll have some flags from their country, like someone will hand them over the barriers and they'll like skate around with them. So, and they usually do it in their costumes. Sometimes they'll do it in team jackets. At this Olympics, they have podium like wear for them that is like the podium Team USA uniform. I don't know yet, because we haven't had any podium events in the individual events, if they're going to be expected to wear those podium outfits outside of the team event. Because it's quite common that figure skaters will wear their costumes on the podium, because frankly, it makes for a pretty interesting photo, right? It's very, very cinematic to have those photos, as opposed to everybody just wearing team jackets. So, yes, the stuffed animal ceremony. So there's mascots for the Olympics. The Beijing's was adorable and was like so cute. And that stuffed animal went for a ton. It was Bing Dwin Dwin. And it was a giant panda in an ice suit that kind of like looked like an astronaut. I totally recommend looking up Bing Dwin Dwin. The Olympics mascot for Milan are two, because it's the Milan Cortina Olympics. I'm only really talking about Milan because that's where all the figure skating is. So I don't know, whatever, screw Cortina. The Milan ones are two mascots. So they're Tina and Milo, named after Milan and Cortina. And they're little like weasels. They are cute. They are adorable, but they're not as cute as Bing Dwin Dwin, in my opinion. So these like giant long weasels, Tina and Milo, according to the organizers, are known as the first openly Gen Z mascots. I don't really understand what that means, but I will say that the mascots have been doing a lot. So yes, anyway, everybody gets a stuffed animal. But okay, I'm getting back to the drama. I mentioned the stuffed animal ceremony in the context of what the drama is. So the teams went out in their skates, and the podiums always have like a material that you can stand on with your skates. It's like the same stuff that's around the skate area. So skaters will put guards on, but you can't walk on ice with guards. People that have done that will tell you, you never make that mistake again, because you will go straight down, because the guards are made for plastic for your skates. So apparently the podiums were not made of blade safe material. So usually they'll be made of like kind of this, they'll have like a rubber topping, or they'll have like a plastic kind of topping, and they were not. And quite a few skaters were there for like an hour after the podium ceremony trying to get the nicks out of their blades. And so, yeah, it was rough. Tugboat says, my social media can't stop talking about skating. What's Super Bowl? Yes, I will say that I have been effectively off social media since last August. Like, I only use it on desktop. It's not on my phone. I will just pop in when I need to post something and then I will delete it again. And that has been great. However, every time I log in during the Olympics, I am reminded of how kind of fun it can be when you're like engaged in a global live event together. Like, Twitter is a terrible place, but it is still one of the best places for like live figure skating commentary when the events are happening. And it has been hilarious to see like skaters' TikToks and reels. I, as a reporter, have not been doing as good of a job keeping up to date on it because it is really hard to like consume that much social media when you are not used to it. I have to say, I did a pretty good job of like deprogramming my brain from that. And I refuse to re-download TikTok. So I will only see TikToks if they get posted in the subreddit for figure skating. Everyone is saying Japan was robbed in the team event. I would say it was extremely close, but it was, in fact, just a hair better for the U.S. I mean, it really had to do with Ilya's performance. He just has very heavy tech, and he did deliver. It wasn't up to the crazy standards that we have seen from him before. He didn't like attempt the quad axel. I think he will probably attempt the quad axel in the long program for the individual event. But I think being hyped up for this is going to be your best performance. I will say though, like, Shun Sato did everything he could. He did a truly phenomenal job. The big reason that Japan did not have their pairs made up for it. Shun and Yuma did an exceptional job. Shun scored about what that program has scored internationally for him before. So, and Ilya scored below what that program has scored internationally for him before. It's a little harder with Ilya Malinin because Ilya is, his layouts just change based on vibes. Like, all the skaters have to submit for the judges and also like the press, and you can find it online usually depending on the competition, their planned program content. But Ilya, like, even his coaches don't really know what he's going to do. He decides what he's going to do, like, that morning. Maybe even sometimes in the program. Like, we saw that in the way that he threw another jump on in the short program. So it's very hard to predict because his layouts are not the same from competition to competition. And his tech is just so insanely high. If you had no tech content available for me to look at, and we were just going on pure joyful ass skating, I would probably choose Shun Sato any day. I will also say that Shun Sato is like, he is not the most highly ranked international skater. And he had a particularly rough start of this season to the point where like he barely made it to the Olympics, like, you know, clawed his way back through the Japanese championships and earned his spot essentially at the Olympics with that after like a pretty rough last season and the beginning of this season. And I understand that this is very hard for people to comprehend that are not used to the sport, but your international reputation and your international ranking is, in fact, part of what makes a difference in your scoring. And I know that sounds insane, but there's the score PCS. A lot of people call it the second mark. And that's about how it's the program's component score. It's about your musicality, your interpretation, but it's also your reputation. It's how you performed the program. And it's not just about, it is meant to be the scoring of how you do on that night, but it is also meant to be a scoring overall about your expectations versus what you delivered. And Shun delivered amazingly above what the expectations were for him. He really could not have left anything more out there. Ilya, we know his ceiling, and he was not at that ceiling, but that's the other thing. Part of that reputational score that like is inside of the PCS score, which is the more squiggly score and the one that we always love to get upset about, it comes from that. And so it's just, anyway, that's part of it. It was so close. I mean, it was by 1 point. Shun did everything he could, and he would have gotten a gold medal for Team Japan if Ilya had faltered, but he needed Ilya to leave a gap. Ilya had to do the long program because he screwed up in the short, which is extremely rare for Ilya. And once again, he was still able to take second to Yuma because his tech is so high, and maybe a little bit of that reputational scoring that goes into it. But Ilya, they could have subbed out a different skater, and they were kind of thinking they were going to sub out a different skater. But both of the other skaters the U.S. brought in men's, neither of them could possibly make up kind of that gap. They were not going to beat Shun Sato. And we now really, really know that because this morning my time, this evening Italy time, we had Shun did beat significantly Max and Torgashev. So Maxim Naumov had made his Olympic debut, and his story, if you do not know it, he is an American skater. He is one of the 3 men that we sent, and he's a really fantastic skater. He has a very old world, if you liked 90s skating to big emotional pieces, you will love Maxim Naumov's skating. Max was 4th at U.S. Nationals multiple times in a row, which we do give a medal at U.S. Nationals. We give the pewter medal. And his coaches were his parents, who were both Olympic skaters in their own right. They were pair skaters in their own right. Where did they actually skate for? It's a great question. They did skate for Russia. I knew they were Russian, but I didn't know if they skated for a different one, but they skated for the USSR. So both of his parents, Evgenia Shishkova and his dad, Vadim Naumov, they were both his coaches, and they stayed on at the development camp that U.S. figure skating does after Nationals last year. Nationals was in Wichita, Kansas last year, and his parents, along with 24 other people in the figure skating community, were on the plane that was crashed into by a Black Hawk helicopter outside of D.C. So both of his parents were killed, very suddenly, right before the season that he was going to fight for an Olympic medal. Max has been insanely strong. He decided to keep fighting because this was a collective dream that his family had. He was really very much rallied around by the coaches. He's in Skating Club of Boston. And you know, everybody took care of him, right? So Vladimir Trinko, Benoit Richaud, like all of these coaches at Skating Club of Boston and the Skating Club of Boston community, they rallied around him. And he implemented the plan that he said his dad laid out as part of their last conversation after nationals about how Max was going to get to the Olympics. And then he delivered. And he held a picture of his parents on skates in the kiss and cry after his performance at nationals. And he held that same picture again today after he skated his short program at the Olympics, which was his Olympic debut. I mean, just truly very strong. He had a clean skate. He did an excellent job. And he will be making it to the final group in the free skate. He is not a medal contender. And I think he probably really isn't a medal contender right now, given what his scoring kind of potential was in the short program. But, you know, it's such a big deal that he did that. And it's probably one of the best stories, the most like heartwarming stories to come out. It's heartbreaking as well, obviously, but his strength and the way he talks about his parents, he's very intentional. He's really thinking things through. And it's very clear he wants to do this and to be here in honor of his parents. So, but yeah, it's really, I mean, we knew that figure skaters were on that plane pretty much the second that I heard it was coming out of Wichita, because it was right. How many people are on a plane from Wichita to DC right after figure skating nationals? And so the figure skating community immediately knew. We even knew who some of the skaters were before it was confirmed, because some of them had posted like Instagram stories saying that they were headed back with like their flight number in it. And it was just a really awful situation. At nationals this year, a lot of skaters skated to music that friends of theirs who had died in the crash had planned. Like, a lot of people did tributes. A lot of people held pictures of their coaches or their friends who were killed in that crash. You could really feel it. Like, everybody knew it and was aware of it. Also, Skating Club of Boston has Tenley Albright, who is a Olympic champion who was in the Olympics in Milano in, what year was Tenley Albright champion? God, I don't even remember. 1956, which was last time it was in Cortino. So, anyway, Tenley Albright she then became a doctor. She is still involved with Skating Club of Boston, and she knew all of the people that were on the flight that happened in 1960 that killed the entire U.S. figure skating team, which is now, So, and she was already retired at that point, but she was still skating there. She was in med school, actually, because she's a surgeon. Yes, she really, she's been very articulate at 90 years old about what it meant to kind of have that survivor's guilt when she had decided not to compete that year, and then the entire U.S. figure skating team was lost on a plane. No longer is the entire U.S. figure skating team allowed to be on one plane since that crash in the 1960s. But it was a lot of people in that plane last year as well. Okay, I'm getting off track here. So, what did we see in the team event, and what does it tell us about the events coming on? One, Andrew Torgashev, who was originally somewhat of a controversial pick for the U.S. team for men. A lot of people wanted Max to go because the community was behind him. And he has the technical skills. He earned his place there. Everybody knew Ilya was going to go. Ilya Malinin has been undefeated for 2 years. Like, there was really no question that he was going to be. He could have skipped nationals and he still would have been appointed to the Olympic team. Jason Brown, who is a Olympic veteran, this would have been his third Olympics, was assumed to be the other spot on the team, and that's because he had earned the 3 slots for the U.S. at Worlds along with Ilya last year. And he generally has been extremely consistent. He will put out the performances, but he doesn't have quads, but he has amazing skating skills. And also everybody loves him. He's just a total teddy bear. So there was an assumption that Jason Brown was going to be named to the team, but then Jason Brown had a nationals long program that I would not wish on anyone. And he just didn't turn it out when he needed to turn it out. And he placed 8th at nationals. It's possible if he had been in the top 5, U.S. figure skating would have sent him anyway. But Andrew Torgashev has been looking strong since mid-season, I would say. And he came out, he did not play around at nationals, and they named him to the team. And I have to tell you, does not feel like a mistake after what we saw Torgs do in the short program today. He just looks so strong. He looks so trained. He's not a medal contender either, but like he is, I think, a very likely top 10 and possible, depending on how things go in the long program, top 5 competitor. Yeah, I didn't know about that older crash. You could do a whole edited video essay about this subject easily. Which subject? Which one are we talking about? By the way, I have donuts. We should eat a donut right now because it'll slow down my momentum a little bit. And I'm going to have to leave at 5:45 to get on my next call to then go to the gym because I haven't had a chance to go to the gym because I've been reporting on figure skating all day. And, so anyway, that's what we're going to do. We're going to introduce a donut. I have 2 donuts. We're going to just choose one at random. I'm actually more excited about this one. So this is going to be the first one that we have. We got a lot of donuts this month because they're doing the double donuts. And then next week is Fat Tuesday. So they're going to have special donuts for that day alone. But this is talking dough and eating donuts, so. And here is the donut. It is a matcha cream heart. So it has sugar on the outside and it has a matcha cream on the inside. And it's, I think, very cute. I mean, look at that. That's a cute. Also, I don't know what this camera is going on. It clearly moved. But look how adorable that donut is. And it's a big boy. It's quite a big donut. The heart does kind of look ill. A 4-hour video essay on ice skating in the Olympics? That isn't enough time. 4 hours to cover the whole topic of figure skating in the Olympics? Tugboat, this is a great question. Don't let me forget to talk about it because that's who Italy beat out. Okay, it doesn't taste very matcha-y yet. I'm a little surprised, but it's all sort of, it's just very fluffy raised donut in the middle. I haven't gotten to the cream part yet. Now I'm into the matcha cream, but it's not very... Oh, there we go. Now it tastes matcha-y. That's really good. It just tastes like matcha. I guess I do like the contrast of the matcha cream to the like grainy, granular sugar. I will say this is very messy and I shouldn't have eaten this one first. What is my rating? I feel like it's like a medium. It's quite good. You have to be in the mood for matcha and very sugary fingers, but I'm finishing the whole donut. Yeah, I was gonna say the shape is pretty cute. I've never seen a heart donut, let alone a matcha heart. But I do wonder if maybe a green donut should not be... A green donut covered in granulated sugar might not be the best heart color. I think it's 3.5 out of 5. It's good. I don't hear a tax collector coming down, so it's gone now. The tax collector has their own donut, so that's probably why there's no tax collection. Okay, also look how cute the picture is. I had to take the picture on our counter because if I took it on the brown, you wouldn't be able to see how cute it is. All right, there's our rating. Sorry, guys. I don't know what happened with this camera. There we go. There we go. There's the matcha cream. All right. I hope I don't have too much on my face because we're going to go straight back into what happened with the Georgians. Well, the real question is Russians skating for other countries. How are those skaters doing? Well, I will say that there was no Team Russia in the team event because they are not allowed to compete. There are two figure skaters that are international, or that are individual neutral athletes that are not allowed to compete under the Russian flag, but are Russian skaters. And they qualified by showing that they essentially had no affiliation with certain camps that are affiliated with doping, and they have not actively supported the war efforts. Like, they have not fundraised for the war effort. They have not appeared on stage with President Putin, like all sorts of things. So there was quite a long list of considerations, and very few athletes were declared even eligible to compete for this spot. So there are two individual neutral athletes. However, that is not enough to field a team. And it kind of, unlike last time where they allowed Russia to have a Olympic athletes from Russia team, which was pretty much just the Russian team except with a different acronym, and they listened to Tchaikovsky instead of the Russian national anthem when they got on the podium. I mean, it wasn't much of a... This was before the war when they were in trouble for doping. Now that the war has started in Ukraine, outside of Crimea, then now they're in trouble for violating the Olympic truce for the third time as well. So now only neutral athletes. So Russia was not in the team event, but there was a box that looked suspiciously full of Russians, which was Georgia. One of the skaters for Georgia, he is very much Georgian in that he He does train in Russia and his coaches are Russian, but that's not that unusual for Eastern Europe in the first place for figure skaters because the best training facilities are in Russia, and especially a lot of like lower income countries in Eastern Europe or middle income countries like Georgia is, they just don't have the same resources or ability to train athletes as they do in St. Petersburg. So a lot of athletes will go train there, but he was born in wait, I don't actually know how to pronounce the capital of Georgia. I've never had to pronounce it. Tbilisi? How do we say it? Anyway, that's where he was born. His parents are there. So he's actually Tbilisi. So he's from Tbilisi. And other than that, here's the skaters. Diana Davis and Gleb Spolkin. Gleb is very much Russian. Diana Davis, she is Georgian by heritage, but she was born in America. And Gleb was also born in America, but like her mother is a prominent Russian coach and she's lived in Russia her whole life. They're ice dancers. They're actually incredible. Eteri Tuperitsa is her mother. Eteri Tuperitsa is the coach that Kamila Vieva was under, the athlete that was a 15-year-old who got tested positive for doping at the last Olympics. And she's kind of the camp that all of these top Russian girls were coming out of before Russia was banned from a competition. Well, I know how to spell Tbilisi, but I didn't know how to say it. I didn't. I realized I've only ever read the name of it before. Anyway, so really it was neck and neck for bronze between Georgia and Italy. And in a lot of ways, I was very happy with the performances that a lot of the Georgian skaters put up. And I didn't really want to give them crap for that. I think a lot of them as individual athletes did very well. I hate the idea of punishing figure skaters that are teenagers and have no influence on what is happening with the politics of their country. So I hate the idea of being in that kind of camp. It's very different if they're like actively promoting that, but like there's a lot of Team USA athletes I support, despite the fact that like the United States is doing terrible, terrible stuff right now, especially because a lot of these athletes are very young. So anyway, Nika, he did not do as well today in the singles event, but he did very well. He did his job. Diana Davis and Gleb Smolkin are the ice dancers that went in the free dance. And I believe they got scored pretty decently well. And then the pairs from Georgia were excellent. So I guess sort of the question is, sorry, I'm getting the pairs confused. It wasn't who skated for them. It's so confusing because everybody swaps so many times. People swap countries so much that now I'm forgetting. Okay, yeah. Luca and Anastasia were the pair. They actually did a pretty good job, but they didn't do as good as the pairs field was just pretty weak, except for Riko and Ryuichi, the Japanese pair, which is Riko and Ryuichi was holding up that like the Team Japan's weakness in ice dance, because this was a ranked competition where it was about points for your whole team. So your ranking mattered. Your score didn't really matter. It was just your ranking relative to one another. And it really didn't matter your score from the short to the long, because in normal skating competitions, the way it works under our scoring now is that the short program or the rhythm dance gets added to the long program or the free dance score for your total score, and that makes your overall ranking. That's not how it works in the team competition. It's purely a rank, and then that determines who moves into the next one. And those rankings are added together, but the overall scoring does not matter. So, because different people might do the same discipline because you're allowed to split the events. Anyway, Team Georgia, there was some level of victory of not having Team Georgia have them win a bronze when it's essentially like, I saw someone describe Team Georgia as as a sorry. Someone described it as I don't know why I find this so funny. Maybe it's because I've been too much in Olympic brain, but as a Trojan horse for Russian figure skaters. And it was kind of funny. I mean, there's a lot of figure skaters that are Russian that are competing for other countries other than Georgia, but it just was very obvious in a team event. But if you really think about it, you could look at Team USA and you could have said, man, that's a really Russian box, because we sent three men that are all the sons of Russian elite figure skaters, and we have 4 total Olympic figure skaters on Team USA that have Olympic figure skater parents. I mean, it's like, and that's just Olympic figure skaters. We could go even deeper if we just go into like figure skating Russian parents, and then even more if you go for who has a coach that is Russian, which is 90% of US figure skaters have a Soviet coach. I mean, it's probably 90% might be a little high, but it's pretty freaking high. So, you could make that argument anywhere. A Georgian horse for Russian figure skating. That's pretty good too. Okay. I just found that so funny. I laughed for way too long, but like I said, I might be weirdly caught up in this. I have just been watching a lot of skating. Okay. Go Team Japan. Here's the thing. There is a very strong possibility we see 2 Japanese men on the podium. And like we did at the last Olympics, it's just a very, very strong field out there. And I think it's very possible. Shun did not do as well in the Shun Sato did not do as well in the short program as I would have hoped. But I'm very happy generally about where he did. We are probably not going to see we will probably not see him on the podium, but I do think he's going to get top 5. There's still a possibility he could make it up. He had like a small stumble essentially on one of his jumps, and then he also got downgraded on some of his spins, I believe. And so that's kind of essentially where we're at. Yuma's free skate is one of the most beautiful programs I've seen in my life. It's to Tornado. The pianist that recorded it specifically for him. Every single movement is exactly choreographed. He is going to have to skate perfectly, which he probably will in that step sequence, because every single freaking moment of that free skate is a work of art. And you will be over the moon watching. If you like quality skating, Yuma Kageyami is like, you will love his free skate. And Yuma, I want him to land all of the jumps that I know he's capable of. But if he could skate that free skate with no jumps, I would still be happy. I mean, it's just a beautiful work of art. Ilia's is a different work of art, okay? Ilya Malinin, the tech is what makes him fun. The ego of how much he's into himself is what makes it fun. I was not an Ilya Malinin fan when he first came onto the scene, like the senior scene 4.5 years ago. I was like, yes, and that was, to be fair, it was before he was doing the quad axle, but he was doing a lot of quads. He was already calling himself a quad god. And I liked Ilya in that, like, I want the best for every skater, but he really had just very little artistic skating between the jumps. He was just a jump boy. That's all he had. And he realized that he needed to work on that. He got a lot of feedback that he needed to work on it, and he worked really fucking hard on it. He worked very hard to make sure that he had the artistic score, that he had the program's component score, and that wasn't just a jump drill. And he did it by methods that work for him. His program is very funny in that it is his own spoken word poetry, him speaking his own spoken word poetry over the voiceover for the program. And, like, I have to tell you, not the best poetry you've ever heard. Like, you just have to accept the vibes of it. But here's the thing. He's so into it. And he is working very hard on making it his thing. His costumes are also redonkulous. Like, crazy costumes. He designs all his costumes himself and says he might want to be a costume designer after he retires, but he also says he wants to do 2 more Olympics, maybe 3 more Olympics. So he says he wants to stay until Salt Lake City, which would be his home Olympics, which is 2 Winter Olympics cycles away. He's only 21, but also 21 is like 30 is not young for men's figure skating. If he's 30 at the next Olympics. So, we'll see how that parses out. He also has like a rap breakdown at the end. But he's so into it. He's so into it that you just have to ride along. And the way that watching Ilya is like, I will say I was a little nervous after the short program in the team event, but one of the things about watching Ilya was like, up until a couple years ago, you were sort of like, okay, what am I in for? Now you never know what jumps you're going to get from Ilya, but you know that he's going to fucking land them, and the tech is just so insane. I mean, this man went for 7 quads in one program. He did a layout that had every single type of quad in it, and which is nuts. Like, most other skaters are doing 4, maybe 5. 3 is a lot for a lot of these Olympic men's figure skaters. So the idea of doing 7 in one program, which is the max you're allowed to do, and doing 1 of every type is insane. And Ilya's he's just a mad lad. He just decides he wants to learn something and decides he's going to do it. He's also very determined to do a quint. And he has been training it. He is not landing them yet. But he is working very hard to land a quint, which also nobody thought it was going to make. Isn't it the fault of the coach regarding lack of artistry? No, because it was also about foundational skating skills. I mean, here's the thing, like, there's some level of artistry that you can't really train. But I will also say that the reason Ilya has these insane jumps and that his skating skills are not on the level of a Jason Brown is because he spends a lot of time landing these jumps. He spends time learning backflips. He spends time inventing new moves. Ilya Malinin, like, he would not be quad god if he had the artistry of Jason Brown. Some of it is just about, like, time on the ice. Like, some people have natural musicality. Some people, sometimes skaters have the wrong packaging, in which case it could be the fault of the choreographer and the coach. But it's just like, it has to do with time on ice. Those things come at the expense of one another. Skating skills are a learned thing. My jumps are nowhere near where they were when I was a teenager and I was more capable of jumping up in the air and being thrown in the air and landing things like that, and I was training rotations. But despite the 16 years off, my skating skills are so much better now because I train those. I spend a lot of time with them. I have the patience for them. But that's because I'm not weighing kind of that practice time on my and skating skills is like, that encompasses a lot of stuff. It's very hard to get into, but it's about your edges and your footwork and your transitions. All of that is like, those skating skills, you can't fake them. You need experience doing them, and you need to kind of do that trained. I found that kind of creepy regarding spoken word. I agree. I didn't like it when I first heard it, but here's what I have to say. I still don't like it, but I like that Ilya's into it. And I think this is one of the things about Ilya Malinin. He's so fucking crazy, and he's in just such like his own planet, and he's so bought into himself that you see the excitement that he has from just trying insane stuff. And eventually, if you spend enough time watching Ilya do this insane stuff in competitions, you just start to get bought into it. And I would say he's really into himself, but I would also not say he's a very gracious competitor. Like, when he was younger, I think, he made some comments that US figure skating was like, you gotta fix that. But Ilya is such a supporter of his friends. He's such a supporter of Max and Torgs, the two other men's skaters that he's coming with. He just has this infectious quality where you're like, this is fucking crazy. This man is fucking crazy. I cannot believe this 21-year-old is doing this stuff. And it's so easy to be an Ilya fan these days because I have a lot of skaters I'm fans of that are very inconsistent. I have a lot of skaters and it makes me nervous to watch them skate because I want the best for them and I want them to do what I know they're capable of. And for years, Amber Glenn was that, but we'll get back to that. Ilya, it's so fun to be a fan because everybody likes to be a winner. And it's very fun to watch Ilya and be supportive of him and not know that, like, the nerves come from having no idea what he's going to throw down. But in the end, you're pretty fucking sure he's going to land it. And so I think it's just fun. It's fun to back a winner. I'm still a little nervous. He looks more nervy than I've seen him look at any competition. It's so smart he did both programs in the team event. One, it was a large part of why we won the team gold for the US. But he's looked subsequently less nervous each program. I think it's very hard to be a 21-year-old that NBC Sports has been plastering all over the place, saying he's the future of figure skating. He has an insane amount of pressure on him. And yes, he is undefeated for over 2 years now in every competition. And he does a jump that nobody else can do. I mean, nobody else is even attempting to do. But he is like, you kind of got the feeling that he was not totally comfortable with the Olympic spotlight. And, you started to see hints of that at Nationals, because I would say Nationals was the first competition that a lot of mainstream news outlets other than NBC, like non-figure skating outlets, started covering Ilya. And that was the beginning of the Olympics push last month. And there were a ton of reporters there that are not normally on this beat. And so when they need to get up to speed, of course, Ilya is like this great story. And everybody likes to know, like, everybody wants to back the winner. And so they want to pick that. And I think the Olympics, he did not anticipate how much extra, magnifying glass was sort of on him. Okay. Why did they take out the figures in figure skating, school figures? When they took it out in 1988, 1988, I believe. They took it out a little earlier. They took out the compulsory figures a little earlier in competition before they were discontinued in the Olympics. So 88 was the last Olympics that had compulsory school figures, and then they were totally discontinued from main competitions in 1990. There's a bunch of reasons that school figures stopped being a component of the competition. It still exists. It exists in what's called fancy skating, which they usually do it on black ice, which is super cool. I still skate figures every so often. There's patch is what we call it, like ice time for doing figures once a week at the rink that I do. It doesn't work at the time for me most, but occasionally when I'm available at that time, I will go and do figures. What they ended up doing was they essentially had slowly declined the importance of figures. Figures are boring as hell to watch, and that's because it is the skater tracing shapes on the ice. They are also very expensive to train, and that's because you need totally clean ice to work on them. So it takes a really, really long amount of time for these skaters to actually compete them, because there are these super intricate tracings that you do on the ice. At fancy skating competitions, the judges don't even watch the skaters make the shape on the ice. They just come out and judge the shape when it's done and the cleanness of the turns and everything. And this is what it looks like on TV. No music. It's just someone looking down at the ice. It is boring as hell to watch. Figures like competitions would take multiple days because you need like a certain amount of ice. It takes a long time to actually do them. Everybody needs their own little bit of ice. They have to get judged. So they suck on TV. And, you know, in the 80s, they started to see the rise of the popularity of televised figure skating. And actually, I would say even earlier, because I would say like Peggy Fleming in the 60s. And the compulsory figures would never be aired. But then what that led to was that viewers were totally fucking confused, because there would already be standings coming into the televised programs on television. And they'd be like, why is the skater so far behind? They skated so much better. It would also disadvantage skaters that didn't have access to as much ice time. I mean, obviously, like any skater that has less ice time is disadvantaged because it's less training time. This is a very expensive sport. I have an episode of Planet Money coming out on Thursday about that. I believe it's coming out on Thursday. So anyway, it just like figures just did not work for what the International Skating Union and US Figure Skating, because they were no small player in this, what they saw as the future of figure skating. And I have to tell you, when they took figures out, we had a golden age of figure skating being a popular sport. It's fun as fuck to watch on TV, right? So we saw like a rise in pro-am competitions. We started to see these skaters with these heights of popularity. In the 1990s, we saw, the Battle of the Bryans in 88 as figures were becoming less popular. And then we started to see Michelle Kwan and Christy Yamaguchi. And, all of these top skaters start to rise up. Kurt Browning. And that had a lot to do with making it more and more accessible to a televised audience. And figures is hard to judge and understand for me, a person that has a gold medal level test in figure skating. I have like the black belt of figure skating, of skating skills. I have the highest ranking skill level that you can get in that part of figure skating. And it is still insanely hard for me to judge figures. So yes. Giovanni, I am not willing to make a Discord for figure skating, but I have a Discord, but I'm not active on Discord. There is a figure skating Discord that I am part of, and it's much more active. So I think that you should tune into that. I will see if I can post to add it in, because they do a bunch of separate channels while you're watching. I don't want to do Discord though, because I'm barely keep on top of the Oh My Dollar Discord. I remember seeing Katharina Witt do figures in 1988. It was such an odd requirement. I mean, that's what it originally was. You have to also think that like jumps weren't even like regularly done in figure skating until like the 1910s or something like that. So yeah. Watching any entertainer find joy in what they do makes it much more exciting. Yeah, I don't know if Elias still really thinks of him as an entertainer. He did call out the art that he's making, but I don't know how much of that is just him trying to give the right PR sound bites. I still think that man if left to his own devices, he'd just love to make a trick show and that's it. But you know, he's bought into it. Oh, Isabella Mendez. Do you think Adelia has a shot at the podium? It's really hard to know. I watched Russian National. So this is the question is about the individual neutral athlete from Russia. She's a very strong skater, and she does have jumps in her arsenals that outjump any of the current athletes and the current repertoire. She jumps quads. She jumps a AAA. However, her triple axel and her quads have not been looking that strong for her this season. And she also is very untested against this group of skaters in the women's competition. That I think is definitely like a contributing factor in she's going to be in an early group because your group is based on your world ranking, and she has essentially no world standing points because the only international competition that we've seen her at is senior international competition that we've seen her at is the Skate to Milano like qualifying event in Beijing. She did not look as good at Russian nationals as I had hoped that she would. Obviously, I want every skater to come with their best material. I do wonder if she might have the same kind of effect as the same kind of scoring effect that we've seen with the rhythm dance. So we had the rhythm dance yesterday for the events for ice dance, and we saw Guillaume and Laurence, who are the very controversial French team, who I've talked about a little bit here. Because they just recently got together, they don't have a high world standing, so they were in an early group. Guillaume is the reigning Olympic gold medalist with his former partner, Gabriela Papadakis. They're both incredible skaters, Laurence Faudry-Boudry and Florence Boudry, and Guillaume. They're both incredible skaters. And so when stacked up against that early group that has a lower world ranking, they looked incredible, and they actually got scored quite high. And this competition is really long. Like each of these events is super freaking long. And the judges, it's hard for them to keep in their head that kind of relative scoring. And it's very normal for the earlier groups to kind of have a lower score that they start at based on their tech. And then the judges start to build on that as they get towards the last group. And they ended up getting they put up a 90 score, which is generous for rhythm dance. It's not the highest score that they, ever, but it's very high. And they moved down to they ended up beating, and they are currently winning in the ice dance competition, people that went 20 plus skaters after them in the ice dance, including Chalk and Bates, who are the reigning world champions in ice dance. So they went last because they have the highest world standing. And I think that helped them, because normally being in an early group is a huge disadvantage for a skater, because you'll start getting higher PCS in the later group. It's just because the judges are human, and I mean the sport is fake anyway. But I think there's a possibility because Adelia has a no world standing, and she's going to be in that early group but she's so much better than a lot of those skaters in the early groups that are from smaller feds, that have lower tech, that are younger, that she might have that same kind of effect that we saw with Guillaume and Lawrence, where they give her a high score, making sure to try to make her competitive with that last group because she puts that down. And that's the thing. If you see these lower kind of skilled skaters next to someone really good like her, the judges are going to like that contrast is going to make a difference. So I think there's a possibility we see that. I am very worried about her in general because I was very worried about Camila Vieira at the last Olympics in that pressure cooker. I do think far less attention has been on her. Originally, the individual neutral athletes weren't even supposed to talk to press, but they've lifted that since. So I think that there is a possibility that she does well, just because she's a little more out of the spotlight. I don't know if it's going to be one of those situations where she does well in the short program where she's been underestimated, and then she does exceptionally bad in the long program because the pressure starts to get to her if she is, in that top 5 group after that. I will also say she does have her coach with her, even though her coach isn't officially her coach, because Eteri Tuperitsa is her coach, and Eteri is there coaching the Georgians. So I think there's a possibility that kind of works out. I don't know. There's much more artistry in dance versus pairs. I mean, that's how the disciplines are arranged. I don't think that's like I don't think it's a controversial opinion. That's by design. Ice dance is about creating beautiful shapes on the ice, but it is also really hard to understand like why the scoring is the way it is, because it's much more subjectively scored because so much of it is artistry or extremely technical stuff that is very hard to understand as a casual fan. Okay, Tugboat City. You have very different social media, I feel like, than me, but my social media has been hating on the music choices. Have they really been that bad? Well, if they've been hating on all of the 90s rhythm dances, so here's some examples. Pretty Fly for a White Guy, Vogue by Madonna, Spice Girls, 3 or 4 Ricky Martin songs, a lot of Ricky Martin songs. It is actually not really the skater's fault. The reason is because the rhythm dance has a theme now. They changed that up a couple years ago. And the theme is for every skater for the whole season. And this year, your song has to be a dance party, and the song has to be from the 90s. So actually, the song that originally Guillaume and Laurence wanted to use was Personal Jesus by Depeche Mode, which, killer song. But they couldn't use it because the single was released in 1989, even though the actual album was released in 1990. So anyway, that is part of the reason for the music choice. There is an ice dance team that uses AI music, which I think is insane. They used AI. I don't even know how it was allowed because it has to be a song from the 1990s, but they used stuff they trained an AI to be inspired by Bon Jovi. I don't know. I hate it. I watched the rhythm dancing and felt like only about half had the movement matched in the dance. I mean, I feel like that's the best way to judge ice dance. There's the basic rules for ice dance are, do you like it? And do you like the music? And just ignore the rankings, because It's a fake sport anyway, and I say that with love. It's a fake sport though. Like the judging is insane. Particularly in ice dancing, it's very subjective, even when you know what you're talking about. And so yeah. Not wanting to date myself, but I started watching figure skating with Dick Button gushing over the proto-Popovs, which annoyed me to no end, but this was at the height of the Cold War. He'd go on and on, yes, but they were great. Oh, Dick Button, R.I.P. Dick Button was he was such a great, I loved him so much, and really just a phenomenal commentator, and a really nice guy. He did not like this new era of scoring. He is not a fan of it. So I think he was glad to be done with his career when we moved to the IJS system. We have a second donut, y'all. Anybody have any questions about what is like upcoming? We're not going to preview the women's event because the women's event is next week. And there's so much skating between this. So I don't think I'm going to preview that because I could just talk about the women's event forever. Two good pieces of information and things to be excited about this week. One, Danny O'Shea and Ellie Kam, pairs figure skaters in the US. Danny almost made 4 different Olympic teams and was extremely close but missed out 4 times. He was ready to retire and was starting to coach. And he was helping with pairs lifts with some students, and he started skating with Ellie, who was maybe going to do some pairs tests. And they clicked, and he skates with Ellie Kam. They've only been paired together for a couple years. And they they're not expected to medal in the individual event. They are not that strong of a team. The US's strongest pairs team was not able to go because of citizenship. And our third strongest pairs team was not able to go because of our citizenship. But Danny O'Shea and Ellie Kam did both portions of the pairs event and skate of their life in the free program. And without them, we would not have the gold medal for Team USA. So Danny, on his 5th attempt at the Olympics, he not only he won an Olympic gold medal for the Team US. And it just makes me really, really happy for them. And he's also such a nice guy. So it's nice to see him do that. I think there's a possibility he goes for another quad. He hasn't been terribly injured, which pairs guys, especially pairs guys that are like 32, usually do get injured. Okay. One other thing to look forward to that I'm very excited about in the pairs event, Deanna Stellato-Dudek, my just really phenomenal. If you are not aware of her story, I recommend watching Deanna's Dream, which is available for free on the Olympics channel. So if you go to Olympics.com, you type in Deanna's Dream, you can find it's a 2-part documentary about Deanna Stellato-Dudek. This woman was she was a junior medalist when she was like 17. She's plagued with injuries. She quit the sport, went off, did other stuff. After 16 years off, she came back to figure skating in her mid-30s and decided she was going to try pairs, which is a much more dangerous discipline than women's single skating. And the reason she decided to come back is she had a whole other career, was an esthetician, got married, and she was at a work retreat where they asked, what would you do if you knew you couldn't fail? And from somewhere deep inside her, she said, I would go back and I would try for the Olympics in figure skating. And she decided to do it. And when she came back, everybody was like, man, how good for her. Maybe she'll get to nationals. She skated with a U.S. partner. She's American. She skated with a U.S. partner for a year or two. And then they split. And it was like, that's great. That's amazing. After 16 years off in your mid-30s, coming back into this discipline and doing really well. She was not done. This is a determined woman. She found another partner, Maxime Deschamps, who is Canadian, and they started skating together, and they They started feeling out, and then they got really good. And when Deanna was 40 years old, they became world fucking champions. She went from fully retired in the sport to 16 years off to then world champion at 40 years old. The gap between her and her next competitor in age was bigger than the amount of time she took off skating. I mean, it's just like wild, just wild. And they were down to the wire with getting her Canadian citizenship. She was doing a whole campaign, blah, 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 blah. And they made the Olympics. And then 10 days before she was scheduled to compete, she sustained a injury at home in practice. And Skate Canada kept saying, we're evaluating it day by day. We'll let you know if she's able to travel. They finally said what it was, which is she sustained a head injury and there was some internal bleeding. So they didn't know if she's going to be able to fly because the pressure changes are really dangerous when you have bleeding with a head injury. Deanna, you know, she was a bit of a long shot for the podium now, even though she is world champion. They haven't been having as strong of seasons the past year and a half. But I was going to be so upset if she was not able to make it to the Olympics on that ice because we are all so proud of her. It's such a great story for everyone. She's 42 years old and going to the Olympics for the first time. We don't care what happens. She could get out on the middle of the ice and they could just skate around for fun. They don't have to do a single jump, single throw. But I'm so proud of her. And she just got cleared to skate yesterday. So she is going to be traveling. I do feel like Dick was very good at getting the TV audience to like and understand skating. I say that. I love the gal with the striped hair, but I sense she is too non-traditional. I love Alyssa Liu. She's just hilarious, like in person. Every press conference we had at Nationals, she would just go off on like a 5-minute tangent that was totally unrelated to the question. She's really great. She's a contender. She's currently world champion. I think it's very possible that she takes silver to Kaori Sakamoto. She could win. We have such an incredibly strong and tight group of skaters. If everyone skates their best, there's really no way of telling you who is on the podium for women's. Like, we have like 6 women, maybe 5 women that are all a shot for the podium. And like, if all of them skate clean, they all have a chance at that Olympic gold. That's how good this like field is, but also how tight this field is right now. I don't think Alyssa is going to be hamstrung by being too alternative. I think there was a time at which that might have been true. Alyssa's also a very interesting story because she also retired from the sport, but she retired from the sport as a teenager because she was doing quads and triple axels when she was younger, actually. But she became the youngest women's national champion in the U.S. At 13. But she retired, did other stuff, hiked to Mount Everest base camp, enrolled in UCLA, lived another life, and then just decided to come back to skating for fun. And when she came back out of retirement, she was world champion within the season. It's wild. It's a crazy trajectory. So very possible. I believe men's final is Friday. I'm living it day by fucking day right now. Yes, men's is on Friday, which is kind of great. They get 2 full days between, which is rare. Free dance is tomorrow, so we'll know how we feel about Liam, Lawrence, and Guillaume, who I for political reasons, I do not want them to win. So we'll see what goes down in the free dance. And we do have another donut. Thank you, Tugboat. We really do need to do this. Oh my God, I'm going to be late, y'all. Okay. This is our second donut, and it is almond hazelnut tort. So it has almond marzipan here. It has fresh orange zest, and then there's hazelnut butter. I'm assuming it's just like a regular raised donut underneath. It looks like it is. I like it. You're like, this could be a 4-hour edited video. I am not going to edit a 4-hour video. That's what I have to say about that. Oh my God, this is so marzipan-y. I think it might be too sweet. It's so marzipan-y. The flavors are perfect. But it's really, really marzipan-y. Aaron's coming for attacks. Will we get a full review next week? I love listening to you talk about figure skating. It is a joy. Oh, I'm so glad you think it's a joy. I love how I'm just info dumping. It's our fun drive at work. I had gotten a little bit of trouble for giving like a 45-second info dump about figure skating in the middle of the fun drive by my producer. What do you think?
Pretty good. It's good.
You want to finish it? Sure. I'm giving it a 3 out of 5. It's too marzipan-y for me. You say 3.5? I say 3. It's just so heavily marzipan-y. How was your fritter?
Very, very good.
Aaron got the fritter that I had last week, which... last week, what did I give the fritter? I gave it a 4 out of 5 last week. Aaron says 5 out of 5. I think he's being very generous. He's had a long day at work. There we go. There's the almond hazelnut tort. Okay, tell me what you're looking forward to next week, because I have to run really quick here for my next meeting. But tugboat, yes. My rink is slated for demolition, slated for them to actually blow it up with dynamite. It's a huge bummer because the developers that own the mall that it's in always said that they were going to keep the ice skating rink. And now they've put forward plans for that have to be commented on by the design commission, that they do not, that they are not going to have an ice rink, and maybe they'll have a seasonal one, which doesn't help any of us. It's a huge bummer. All the top level coaches are going to have to move out of town. It's such a safe space for so many kids. But I will tell you, nothing like a group of organized parents scorned. There is a lot of very organized adult skaters that are working very hard. They have a petition. They're going and meeting with the mayor. They're doing testimonials. So they seem to be doing an excellent job of finding a way around it. There is a group that wants to keep the actual mall preserved, but there's a separate group that's just about the rink, because most people that are in the mall all the time, including myself, know that there is no financial future forward with this big ass empty mall that like the only functional part of it is an ice rink. But getting rid of the ice rink entirely, which is the only ice rink in the city of Portland, everything is outside the city limits, is just going to be a huge bummer. It's going to be a big inconvenience for me personally. I can't really cover it because I am conflicted out. It obviously affects me. So, but that being said, if any other journalists want to cover it, I am happy to hook you up with some excellent people that are doing an excellent job of There is zero. This is the only public rink in Portland. So it's a huge bummer. It's just really a bummer. And I'm going to have to commute 32 miles. And it's so much more expensive. Like, it's going to be just a huge bummer. So, very sad about it. All right, y'all. What are people looking forward to next week? I guess I might not have time if no one tells me. Well, it sounds like Giovanni's looking forward to my review of figure skating, which, thank you. Yeah, it's really a bummer there's only one rink. And it's not even a full-size rink, so it was already like a training problem, and we can't have hockey on it because they shrank the rink when they redesigned the mall like 12 years ago. It's just a huge bummer that we already are so limited on ice time. A lot of our high-level skaters are training in a different city 3 hours away, and because the coaches lost their ice time at the rink that's like in the suburb of Portland. And I am doing another piece this weekend about our local women's non-binary and trans hockey league. And there's so little available ice time that their competition times are 8 p.m. to 2 a.m. on Sundays. Okay, y'all, I really gotta go for my next meeting. It was lovely to have you all here. Thank you so much for joining me. Stay safe, stay hydrated, pet a cat if you have one available, and I will see you all next week. Bye.